Well, I want to apologize in advance for any potential swear words that could come out of my mouth during this post game recap. Because Spence, I'm pretty mad. I'm pretty mad. Not listen. This just comes from a standpoint of watching this game unfold the way it did. You know, I don't know how you leave, whether you're in the media, you're a fan, whatever, like not frustrated with the way that game ended. Like I'm laughing because it's just like, how did this happen? It's Spencer German and Spencer Davies with you. Of course, we cover the Cleveland Cavaliers for you for Cleveland Cavaliers on SI. So much to talk about from this. I mean, listen, when it's all said and done, when the dust settles on this thing, we can call this an all-time great playoff game. Like it was an epic playoff game. It just didn't go in the Cavs' favor, and it was frustrating from so many different levels because you were left at the end just feeling like there were so many things that could have gone differently that changed the outcome of this game and allow the Cavaliers to hang on. They had a 20-point lead at one point. Donovan Mitchell, brilliance. I mean, true brilliance. 48 points, almost gave you a 50 burger while dealing with a calf issue that obviously has been bothering him since the first game, and gutting it out with his team that's shorthanded. I mean, it was an all-time performance that goes to waste, and man, it was just frustrating. I think from any perspective that we might have had, media or otherwise, to watch that one unfold the way it did. Just Spence, what's kind of your initial reaction to how it all kind of went down in the final minutes there for the Cavaliers to lose 121-19 on the Tyrese Haliburton game winner?
Just a deflating feeling overall. I think as soon as you noticed that the Cavs were having trouble inbounding the ball, that's when things were getting a little too tight for me. And that started probably, I would say, around like the minute-ish mark, maybe a little bit more than that. And it was even after the Pacers converted, whenever the Cavs had the ball side out, they just could not get any separation trying to get open. And that was really what started all of this. And then I think to see the physical fatigue is one thing, but what comes with physical fatigue is also mental fatigue. And the two are connected.
Yeah.
So bad decision making, not knowing where your guys are, not knowing the assignment, not knowing or being able to get to the places you want to get to on both ends of the floor, I think was really a big factor. And look, man, this is one of those things where you look at it and yes, Donovan, amazing performance. Probably the most old school near 50 ball that you're ever going to see. Straight up trucking to the free throw line, earned every single one of his points.
It was remarkable. Like this is one of those games that, like, listen, when the dust settles on this thing, like I'll look back and remember that I was here to see this. I mean, that was one of the gutsiest performances I've ever seen. The guy, his jump shot's missing, and we sort of have we don't know for sure, but we're sort of guessing that the calf injury has a lot to do with that. He just can't kind of push off the same way he would in his jump shot, and we think it's kind of interfering with the way that he shoots the ball. And he made 1 3 tonight, and he's now in the series only made 2 threes out of what is now he had what did he have in game 1? 11, 18. So he's made 2 of 18 threes. So clearly something's not right there. Most of the shots he made, I think I did the math on it. It was like only 2 shots that he made tonight came outside of the paint. So like you said, it was him getting to the rack. It was him getting clobbered on the way to the rack and going to the free throw line. So he earned every point he had. It was a remarkable performance, and it just feels so, like you said, deflating, defeating. Like that, I think that's honestly one of the things that frustrates me the most is just how do you let that performance go to waste? Like, how does that? I guess it's me feeling for Donovan in that way. Like for him to go out there and give you that performance on potentially one leg, clearly, dealing with his own stuff and just pushing through. Everyone around the league, all fan bases, they look at these teams and they're like, if you're a star player, you got to play through stuff. And it's one of the criticisms of this team right now is like, why isn't Evan Mobley playing through stuff? Why isn't DeAndre Hunter playing through stuff? And Donovan's out here doing it. He's giving you a performance for the ages, and then you fall short. Like if any Cavs fans out there frustrated, like I feel you on that, because I mean that was brilliant, and it just stinks that it ends that way with 48 points and the way he got it, just feeling like it meant nothing.
And the thing is, though, I'm feeling for Don, but I'm also feeling for the Cavs as a whole, because Max Strus played his butt off, right?
23 points, career high for him in the playoffs.
Jared Allen played his butt off. Like
double, just a ho hum double like
Sam
usual.
Merrill setting the tone in the first quarter with 3 threes and playing some really good defense on Andrew Nemhard. Like those guys gave it their all. Isaac Okoro sprinting from the left corner to the right corner to go contest a 3 in the first quarter to set the tone. Again, the amount of energy they expounded in the first, 3 quarters, whatever you want to call it, it caught up to them. But at the same time, like, this is a results game.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you have to be critical because you have to learn from the last time stuff like this happens. You can't allow that fatigue to creep in and hurt your mind.
Mentally, yeah.
Right. But they're mentally tough. I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying you can't afford to make those types of mistakes. And pretty much fundamental mistakes when you look at it. Not being able to get inbounds in, 3 times in the last minute?
Yeah, that was bad.
Missing a free throw and not getting a key rebound. Donovan Mitchell was very candid with us.
Donovan said he needed to pull it down. And if you watch the replay, he goes up, he gets his hand on it, he just misses trying to palm it and pull it in, and he blamed himself for that. He said it was on him.
Yeah. There's a stat by the Pacers that I want to say here. So the Cavs, they were up, 7, right? That was what it was
7.
after Max Strus hit the big time 3.
Yeah.
And was
it looked like it was over. It was like 48 seconds left.
In the last 20 years, teams that trailed by 7 or more in the final 48 seconds of the fourth quarter or overtime are 3 and 1,679. 2 of those are the Pacers in the last 8 days.
That is wild. Yeah, they did it last series. They did it this series. Can I just say too, like what you alluded to is is maybe the biggest reason I'm mad, because I had to change my entire premise of my post-game column that I was working on in the fourth quarter.
That was R-rated, by the way.
It felt like
R-rated rants happening.
It felt like it was all framed in this way of like this epic performance, proving the doubters wrong, all the people saying they're not tough. Well, they came out and they give you a mentally tough game. And Kenny Atkinson going deep into the bench. You got Javonte Green coming out and playing meaningful minutes where he gets a steal, transitions down the floor, and it leads to him kicking into the corner to Sam Merrill, who knocks down a 3. You got Craig Porter Jr., your boy, getting a steal breakaway dunk in the second quarter. Like everybody that was playing in this game tonight had a moment. They all had a moment, and it was a shorthanded Cavs team. No Evan, like you were missing pieces, and we talked so much about the depth of this team, and it was on full display tonight. And I'd call it this. They were gonna steal a win. They were gonna steal a win as a shorthanded team that probably shouldn't have had much of a shot against that Pacers team to begin with, because they're at full strength and they just blitzed you in game 1 with the way they were shooting, and they were gonna steal one where every single person that played, role players that barely played during the regular season too, coming in and giving you meaningful plays. Like it felt like this beautiful, beautiful story of redemption. And you talked about pregame, like you thought they were going to play hard because Kenny was getting them fired up with all of the stuff he was saying about the league and the officiating and all this different stuff. And they did play like that. They did play, and up until the last 48 seconds, like it was all coming together. And like that's what I think is so disappointing. It's just the story was written a completely different way until the very last 1.1 seconds left. Like they were going to pull off a game for the ages. Shorthand, like we would have been talking about this one for a long time in a completely different light in terms of toughness and, again, mentally tough. Like guys coming in and playing roles that they don't normally play. Guys coming in and, Max Strus having to take, I forget exactly how many shots he took tonight. I think it was like 18 or something like that.
Yeah, he was
18 shots. He was 8 of 18. Not necessarily an efficient night for him, but he knew he had to get more shots up, and he came through. Like everybody had a little touch point in this game. And that's, I think, another reason why I feel bad for them, why I feel bad for me, who was trying to write a nice story at the end of this, because it felt like it was going to go a completely different direction. And on one hand, I want to say this, like on one hand, that is the beauty of playoff basketball. Like you think a game's going to go a certain way, and it's the beauty of sports, really. Like these magical moments like that, like from the Indiana fan perspective, I'm sure like it's a super celebratory night for them. It's a different conversation for us. But like, this is why we do this, right? Like, this is why we cover sports, because it's games like that come down to those types of situations. But when you're on the other side of it, you understand why it's so frustrating, because man, like it really felt like they were coming together and going to complete this beautiful, beautiful game. And then it just went a different direction.
Sam Merrill said it felt like a game 7. And that was one of those days that they just laid it all on the line. And that's one of the things, too, where you see the result, you're going to make assumptions, you're going to see people go out and question a lot of stuff. They're going to question, are they built for this? Are they mentally strong and whatnot? And I think if you actually watch this game and knowing the situation they were in, there is no way in hell you can question either their physical or mental toughness, because they were the team that hit.
They were the more physical team tonight too, and that's what that's another thing I hate.
Go on, go ahead, go on the second round. You know you want to, because you did it pregame.
Pregame I did this, and this is what sucks, is because they lost. This narrative is going to continue to exist. Like if they had won, it would have been literally one shot decides if tomorrow morning everyone's waking up and still calling this team soft. And if everyone tomorrow morning's waking up and saying, like, this team finally proved they're physical on their stage to the world, to everybody who was watching at home nationally or wherever else. And so that's what I wanted to say something now. That's what stinks. Like, that's what sucks, because I get fed up with this narrative that they're not tough. They showed you they were tough tonight. And I think they honestly showed you they were mentally tough. Yes, they had the errors at the end of the game. Fatigue was playing a factor in that. Like it was inexcusable. And yes, you're going to look back and say they can't do those things. But for the majority of that game, for about 45 to 46 minutes, they were in control. They were going to win this game, and it was because they had the mental fortitude to come out and like forget about game one and shorthanded and all, give it their all, play this great game, play to give the Pacers a little bit of they got the first punch in game one, they threw the punch back in game two. The questions about them being physical or tough or whatever, they answered all of that tonight.
Throw that out the window.
Until Tyrese Haliburton hits that shot, and then that all just comes flowing back out again from everybody. And so I know that's going to be the conversation, and it's just going to annoy me because it's garbage. Like I don't buy that this team isn't tough, because if they aren't tough, they don't even make this. This game's not even a game tonight.
They fold
if they're not tough. You don't think Donovan Mitchell looked like he was tough tonight? The guy dropped 48 points with all of his shots coming basically within like 5 feet of the basket. Like, what are we talking about?
And he fell to the floor almost every single time.
You had a great quote. You said it felt like he was playing a football game tonight, not a basketball game. He was abused. He was out there gutting through it. You mean to tell me that that's not somebody who's tough and sets the tone for this team? So don't give me that. I'm sorry. I refuse to buy that argument anymore. This, in a loss, I think this team did prove that they're plenty tough. So I'm done with that. I'm done talking about it.
Most definitely.
I mean, I'm not done talking about it because it's going to come up again. But I'm just done letting that be a narrative that doesn't like get a response anymore.
And we'll get to this on the pod, but I think a lot of people are also looking at seeing DeAndre Hunter on the bench, Darius Garland on the bench, Evan Mobley on the bench, and questioning their toughness. But if you look on our YouTube page, if you're watching here right now, you can go right over there after this show. And Jarrett Allen touched upon that, and talking about being in their position last year.
Yeah.
Because he was on the sidelines and not able to do anything about it, because everybody knows their own body. And if they are out there, do you want to see them out there and be a detriment to the team, or do you want to see them out there and actually be productive? Does it make a difference if they're out there and they're not themselves, and you see them out there and you see them trying to gut it out? Or do you want to see them be, again, productive? Because obviously Donovan Mitchell is toughing it out and doing it his way. With Darius and Evan and Dre, like, this is all unfortunate timing. And it all happened in a game one and game two that was 2 out of 3 days. Before, in the first round, you had a few days in between. You are going to have some time now because there's travel, right? You're going to have a couple of days off. Kenny Atkinson does sound optimistic.
He did.
That he's going to get one or two of those guys back.
The way he said, sort of, we got to get some guys back, sounded like it had like a positive twist to it. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. But that, I think, is also the other thing that's going to come up. And you look at this one and you just say, gosh, if we're able to just grab one at home, that really changes the outlook on the series. And now you've put yourself literally back against the wall. You got to treat game 3 like game 7. You got to treat game 4 like game 7. You got to treat every game the rest of this series like a game 7 now.
Yeah.
And you got to leave it all out there. And hey, you're going to see some differences, I think, in game 3 too, because Kenny Atkinson was critical of himself for not going deeper into the bench. I know that he played Craig Porter. I know that he played Javonte Green, but did he play them enough? Because it was basically a 7-man rotation tonight, and those guys left it all out on the floor, no doubt. But Javonte and Craig, I think Javonte played 10 minutes, and I think Craig played like 6.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. Like, we know he wants to go deeper in his bench all the time. He did mention, in the playoffs, sometimes you want to keep your best guys out there. He flat out said that at the end of the game. He was like, I didn't want to mess with anything because it's my top guys. And real quick on your note on the injuries, like, I think this mostly applies to Darius. Like, I hope that people understand, like, Evan's injury must have been serious enough that he couldn't play. I also hope people understand, like, DeAndre Hunter's injury being a dislocated thumb on his shooting hand. There's probably some messed up ligaments in there. Like, if it was his non-shooting hand, he'd play. Like, those two, I think legitimately could not play. And Garland's, I get Garland clearly couldn't either. But I think when you hear injuries described as like a toe injury, it gets minimized because they're like, well, what's a toe injury? Like, I have a toe injury. I go to work every day, but it's different. And it's the same thing. You brought up Jared Allen from last year, where Jared Allen's injury was reported as a rib contusion. And it was like, oh, contusion. Why can't he play through a bruise? And then we find out after the fact
that he has a bone floating in his body.
He had a cracked rib and the bone was like loose in his body, and that it was like really hard for him to breathe and it was painful. Yep. And so like that gives you more context. So I don't know the full story of Garland's toe. We don't know if we're getting the full picture of what it is. They've said it's just a sprain, but if it's something more, like, how would we know that? And so I warn people against like minimizing any of these injuries just because you're like, well, this time of year you got to play through it. Like, I was arguing with a guy I probably shouldn't have been on social media over this because he's like, oh, they did load management all year just so that they could get hurt and then not play through things. Why is Jalen Brunson playing through injuries? Why is Jason Tatum playing through injuries? And I was like, neither of those guys were on their team's injury reports. And then he fires back at me and he's like, well, they weren't on the injury reports because they knew they were going to play. And I was like, no, that's not how injury reports work. Like, if you're injured, you're on the injury report and you play, like, or you don't play. Like, so it's just like the stupidity of some of the arguments against like the injury thing drives me nuts. Like, yes, these guys, Donovan was out there playing through an injury. So yes, like, if they can play through their injury, they will. Clearly, they were serious enough that they couldn't do it tonight. So we can end that part of the conversation at least tonight on that. I just can't get past like the idea that like we're going to sit there and call him not tough because Evan Mobley has a really bad ankle injury and, well, he's not playing through it. Because here's the other thing. If he did try to play with the ankle injury and he had a garbage game, if he shot what Ty Jerome shot tonight, he was 1 of 14, which I heard some negative comments thrown Ty Jerome's way as people were making their way out of the arena. Not necessarily fair because he's been brilliant all year, but I know tonight he was bad. So, like, if that was his stat line, people would be like, what the hell is Mobley doing? Like, he's playing on this injury and he's not giving you anything. It's like, that's exactly what Jared Allen's talking about. Are you going to be a detriment to the team if you play on the injury? I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's a lose-lose for the players. And on that front, I sympathize with them because, like, you can't win. You either play through the injury, and if you stink, you're going to get criticized, or you don't play, and they're going to say you're not tough enough. So what's the right answer? I don't know.
You are on fire tonight. I'm loving just being
it's 1 a.m. It feels like 6 p.m.
I was going to say, this man is just going on rants, and I'm here just listening to him.
Let's pivot a little bit because there's still plenty, obviously, to talk about from this game in other fronts. And I think one of those is on the officiating side of things. It definitely felt like Kenny Atkinson's message, where he clearly was pretty passionate about the way that the first game was officiated, not getting certain calls. It felt like tonight the officials were on high alert for certain things. And I don't want to say that I called the game more in favor of the Cavs, but they were definitely calling this game more tightly, where they were making a lot of the calls both ways and making sure that things were called correctly. I felt like the officiating was better tonight in the grand scheme of things. There was always going to be calls that are hit or miss and fans get mad about and start the refs you suck chant, which I know you hate. But I think overall the officiating was better. And I do think, again, people who are mad that Kenny Atkinson was making excuses and crying about the officiating, there's a reason he does that. There's a game that's kind of played there. Like, he was making his point because he had 2 players injured because of plays that weren't called fouls. And I think it did perpetuate into tonight the officials being more aware of those types of things and making sure that the game was called more even.
He most definitely did. And I think that regardless, even if Kenny didn't have a rant, that like Donovan would have gotten every single free throw that he got because he was just in maximum overdrive the whole night. But I think that it was a little bit more fairly contested tonight. And I think they did a good job. And the Cavs just didn't hold up their end of the bargain as far as finishing it out. And that's the ultimate part of this, is that they had the lead. They had 20 points on them. they didn't take their foot off the gas. Like, let's not get it twisted there.
Yeah.
That was not a foot off the gas situation. That was a they ran out of gas situation.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunate, but all of the energy they played with and for how little he went into the rotation late, a lot of guys were playing heavy minutes. And I know that's their job, but you got Donovan Mitchell out there cramping with 48 seconds left. Like, if that doesn't tell you what they're trying to leave out on the line, I don't know what does. Again, Max Strus, I know he had the inbounding issues at the end. You know, Ty Jerome probably could have some part in that as well, having been down in the paint with the lob pass, and obviously Nemhard got the steal going the other way. But it's all semantics. You can point fingers wherever you want to.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they just had nothing left in the tank at the end.
Well, and I think that's what's also hard about these types of games. It's like you're left with so many what if moments. You know, what if the Max Strus inbound play doesn't get intercepted? What if Donovan doesn't get called for that foul on Neesmith where he sort of swung his arms through trying to bring the ball up and he nipped him with his elbow and it gets called a foul? They reviewed it for a flagrant. It wasn't deemed a flagrant, but he still had to give the ball up. What if Donovan does pull down the rebound of Haliburton? What if Haliburton makes the second free throw and makes it a 1-point game with whatever, how many seconds were left at the time, like 14 seconds or whatever. So there's a lot of what ifs. There's also the what if of like, just what if one other person makes a shot? And I think that applies especially to somebody like Ty Jerome tonight. I brought up that he struggled tonight. He has just been off these first two games. And a lot of it is like, I think you're seeing like he doesn't have the speed necessarily to get past some of these more nimble defenders that Indiana can throw at him. And that, but it was perplexing because even some of the times where he did get past somebody or he had an open lane, he was missing his go-to floater, and that seems problematic because that's when he's at his best, is when he's hitting that. For him to go 1 for 14 tonight, that's another one of those big what ifs. Like, what if Ty Jerome just gives you like 5 or 10? You probably win this game.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of frustration there as well, and that's another player that I think has to kind of get back on track here in Game 3.
Just a tough night for him, man. I mean, even Haliburton even hit the jumper over him. That was the last contest, was Ty Jerome. So, like, I'm sure that he's just kicking himself and trying to figure this out too. I agree with you. I think that Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Neesmith are just really, really tough assignments for Ty to try and get any kind of rhythm against, just because Ty is a very unorthodox player. He plays at his own weird little pace, and it's worked all year long. He has been terrific all year long, but for some reason, he's just so different that you don't have much effectiveness against this Pacers team because he's not as quick as like a Donovan Mitchell. Like, Donovan can still, even with his injury, can still get by these guys. And there's, players who can take them off the dribble, like, very little, honestly, on the perimeter of this series. That's why there's a lot of cutting. That's why there's a lot going on there. But it seems like it's just not a good matchup for Ty. Maybe he changes that up when we go on, we see him go on the road, and it's clearly affecting his jumper too. Like, he's not hitting the floaters, he's not hitting the jumpers. As a scorer, he has not looked like Ty Jerome has looked. And that is, I think, something that Kenny might have to address. If it doesn't change.
Listen, it could also just be like he's in a slump right now, and that could be part of it. But I will say this, like, I know there were some conversations amongst us media's members where people were sort of saying like, they got to stop using Ty so much if he's not going to be effective. And I get that. But on a night like tonight, you needed Ty. That's the thing. Like, you were already so, you didn't have your full rotation of characters. Like, you needed Ty in a big way.
You need someone to dribble. You need someone to pass. You need someone
and he was the one going into this game where I was like, listen, if you can get like Jarrett, Ty, and Donovan to just give you like a solid game, all three of them, like, you could absolutely steal this game. Now, he was part of the reason why I had confidence that they could figure it out, was because, you've been missing DG, but you got enough people off your bench that can provide scoring for you without him, Mobley, and Hunter, that I felt pretty good about it. And then he ended up being the weak link tonight. So, it's unfortunate. We'll see if he can get right for Game 3. Everybody's going to be looking to get right for Game 3, including the 3 injured players you've talked about already. But Spence, we talk about mental toughness.
Mental?
And then I sort of had like a TH in there, I know. And the idea that tonight, I think this team clearly showed they are mentally tough. But it feels like it's what's the word I'm looking for? Like, coming back from this mentally feels like it's going to be a very large cross to bear. Like, that feels like it's going to be a very, very tough mental hurdle to clear because there's losing game one and being like, hey, we're good. There's losing game two in any way you could have. Then there's losing game two that way, where you felt like you had it in the bag. Like that is, as you use the word deflating, I use the word defeating. Like that locker room, I know they're a confident group because of what they've done this year, and they're going to lean on that stuff as reason to be confident going into game three. Hey, we won 64 games for a reason. We're a good team. You know, we can win any game against any opponent if we all sort of playing together, if we're healthy, whatever. Like they're gonna talk themselves up and say those things, and that's fine. But that feels like a tough loss to come back from. And so, as you talk about mental toughness, that is going to be tested to the max after this one. And what they look like in game three, could be pretty telling in terms of like if they're going to save their historic season and at least push this another extra game to maybe 5 or 6 and see what they can do, or if this is going to end up being, a pretty frustrating way for what's been such a memorable year to sort of come to an end in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't see them just like going out there and laying down. I
No.
fully expect them to come out with the same energy that they did tonight, to be quite honest with you. Donovan just kind of came out and said, like, look, we have no choice but to mentally bounce back and to be focused, to know that your day could be, your run could be over in 4 or 5 days and it could just all be for nothing, or you can just scrap it, move on, and get on to the next game and do it game by game. And that's, I think, the mentality they have to take. It's one by one. How many win streaks have this team had? This year, very elongated winning streaks. How good have they been on the road? 30-11 on the road. Very, very good road team, as we saw also in Miami, like winning by a collective like 90 points on the road. So I wouldn't put it past this team to completely like shift the momentum, but that is going to take a lot. It is going to take a lot after a game like this where you had it in the palm of your hands, could have been evened up going back to Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and now your back is against the wall. Yeah. You're going to be the one playing with desperation, even more so. That's going to be a tough one to do, but I'm not. Listen, maybe I'm crazy. I would not put it past. I would not put it past this team just because of the mental toughness they've shown all year, and especially if they get any 1 or 2 or 3 guys back.
Well, and I think that's the big thing. It's like if they get guys back, it changes the complexion of things too, because it does almost feel like a nice reset for them of like, hey, let's put that behind us. Different team. We didn't have all our players. Now we get a couple guys back. We feel pretty good. But yeah, like here's the thing. I question the ability to do that because as I know how I would think about it, and it would weigh on me for a long time. I'm not trying to be that guy that like compares my meager high school sports career to professional athletes. But I do listen, we've all had experiences like that as athletes, right? Where like you miss a big shot, or I ran track, for example, like you have a bad race and it costs you a relay or something, like whatever it might be. We all can relate to that to some degree of like just that feeling. And so I know I wouldn't handle that well. These guys are more equipped to handle it. They've been doing it their whole lives. They're doing it at the professional level. And Kenny is kind of ingrained in them to have that mentality. So is Donovan. Donovan is the even keel guy, right? We talk about that all the time. So his ability to throw it out and move past it is going to set the tone for the rest of the group. But yeah, we've seen all year, this team would get down 20, 30 points sometimes, find a way to come back and win. That Celtics game, for example, they were down 25-2 or whatever it was to start the game, and then they ended up winning that game. Like they have the capability to do it. I'll say this. Tonight would have been impressive if they had pulled off a win, shorthanded, all the adversity going against them after losing game one and whatnot, and Donovan gutting it out the way he did, like with his own injuries. Tonight would have been impressive. If they go out and win game 3 after tonight, it will be more impressive than I think what them potentially having won tonight. Because, again, it's all about the context of the situation. The way they lost tonight, I mean, that is gut-wrenching for anybody. And they, like I said, their mental fortitude is going to be put on the line. If they come out and they have a really good game in game 3, they get at least one back there, maybe make it 2 if they win game 4 and even the series up. And they are plenty capable of doing that. We talked about it after game 1. The last team to lose the first 2 games of the series and then come back and win the series was this Indiana team just last year. Now, different situation because they lost on the road and then came home and won their 2 games at home. So it's a little bit different. They have the advantage here. But at the same time, man, like it can happen. If there's a team that it could happen with, certainly this Cavaliers team that's been so good all year and stayed very level-headed about things. I think they will approach it the right way, and we'll just have to see what they give you on Friday.
And stylistically, I think they found something too. JA had a lot to say about that as well. Thought they found the blueprint on what works, and they didn't tell us because they don't want to kill their strategy. So I'm wondering what that is. I think that the pick and roll between him and Donovan worked like a charm again.
I agree.
I think that straight up attacking the rim and getting to the free throw line worked. Finding ways to get guys open before they got gassed worked. So, you carry that on the road. Can the shooting performance that Sam Merrill had carry to the road? Can Max Strus make those shots?
And that's where the role players come in the most important, is in those road games.
Yep. So that's what you look at. And one more thing. Oh, you wanted to go on your rants. I just wanted to go on my quick little thing here. The fans in Loudville were not good today.
What do you mean?
When Tyrese Haliburton was at the free throw line, started chanting overrated. You got to understand the context of the situation.
We didn't bring that up.
You got to understand the context of the situation. Your team is down 3 of its best players. You do not want to give fire to the best player on the other team, who can absolutely bury you.
And he did.
What he did is he buried you. So maybe think about that twice. I'm not saying that's your fault that it happened, but I'm saying that it absolutely got through his ear. Yeah. And it's definitely something that he's going to carry with him. And probably the rest of the series.
Those chants aged like a carton of milk left out overnight. It was bad.
It's just Donovan. I was going to say, Donovan was telling him.
Donovan was doing the quiet down. They've tried, this team tried so hard not to add any fuel to that fire after that whatever that anonymous poll or whatever.
Appropriate fear, appropriate respect.
They said we don't think he's overrated. We're not playing that game. No. And so for the fans, I meant to ask Donovan about that after the game. I was going to ask him about it.
He wouldn't.
He wouldn't have, but I wanted to know his thoughts on hearing that. I don't know. Regardless, it ended up being not a good look. So listen, the fans are allowed to do.
The fans are allowed to do. Yeah, they're doing that.
And for most of the night, it looked like they were going to get away with it. It was just going to be in jest. But then he buries that shot, and now we get to speculate on whether or not that fueled him or not. So that's kind of the beauty of sports in that way. So. But I'll end with this too. You brought up Jared talking about they found something. That was also the focus of Donovan. Was hey, we got to put the negative stuff behind and just focus on the things that we did do well tonight, and let that sort of be the thing that we build on for Game 3. We'll see if they're able to do that. We'll see if they're ready to do that.
Compete level
going into Friday. Longer post game, but it feels worth it because there was a lot to dissect here tonight. Spence and I are going to drop a podcast episode tomorrow. We'll process everything that we saw tonight, everything we talked about tonight. We'll come up with some good topics and some things to talk about. But if you want to contribute to that, you're more than welcome to. We'll try to read through the comment section, see what you guys are saying too, and pull some stuff out of there. Even though the comment section can be a little dangerous at times. So make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to this YouTube channel, Cleveland Cavaliers on SI. If you haven't noticed, we have all the post-game content from tonight. Kenny Atkinson, Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell all spoke in the locker room. You guys also talked to Sam Merrill and Max Strus, I believe. So those are up there. Stuff from all throughout the week. Kenny talking about winning Coach of the Year earlier today is up there. So there's a whole bunch of good stuff. Watch it, comment on it, whatever, but also subscribe to the channel. Also, head on over to si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. Whole bunch of written content over there talking about this game. I dropped a column about how the Cavs season is now on the brink and the mental strength it's going to take to sort of pull this thing out as the season needs saving. And I actually referenced the chants that were sent Tyrese Haliburton's way in there. So go ahead and check that out as well. We appreciate you guys as always. Check back in tomorrow with the latest episode of Courtside with the Cavs on SI. This guy is going on the road. He'll be in Indy for games 3 and 4. Hopefully it comes back to Cleveland. We have a game 5 to be here back with you again, and maybe even a game 6 so that we can travel together for that one. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for following along. Stay tuned for more, like I said, because Spence will be out in Indy, and keep on following along with all things Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.